All right, so welcome to Theories, and we're talking today about two primary cognitive theories. Last week we talked about some of the earlier cognitive theories, classical, operant, multimodal, a couple more modern ones, one by Wolpe and some desensitizations, stress inoculation, and we also talked about EMDR. So this week we're going to talk about two theories that are very similar. They use different terminology, but the basic concepts underlying both of these theories are quite similar. In fact, I've always wondered if there have ever been any allegations that the theories are too close to one another. So if anybody can email me something that's been written about maybe some accusations or a comparison or something like that between CBT and REBT, has anybody said, oh, you copied my theory or something like that? They're so close, you can get a bonus half a point. So make sure you include the link to where you found the information. Email it to my CalU address, and you'll get some extra credit. Just out of curiosity, because these two theories are so close. So we're going to be talking about cognitive therapy and REBT. We're going to talk about Ellis first. I think, let's see. When we think about cognitive behavioral therapy, that's CBT. REBT is rational emotive behavioral therapy. And like I said, they're very similar. Terminology is different. So Albert Ellis, 1913 to 2007. And Ellis did REBT, Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy. In fact, this is a little confusing. I think we should probably just leave it at REBT, Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy. So Ellis was born in Pittsburgh, but he moved to New York at the age of 4. I'm going through my notes here and talking about them so that you can also follow along with your notes as well. Just as with many other theorists, his health was not good. Ellis was hospitalized 9 times as a child for kidney problems and then renal problems at age 19, and then in his 40s he had diabetes. So his health was never perfect, and I think that has influenced a lot of the theorists that we've been talking about. So at age 19, which is pretty young, he decided that he was shy, and he forced himself to talk with 100 women at the Bronx Botanical Gardens over a 1-month period. So, on average, 3 or 4 people a day at the Botanical Gardens. He still never got a date, but positive side, he no longer feared rejection. And he forced himself to kind of overcome some of his shyness. He studied psychoanalysis, moved away from it to create REBT, Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy. I kind of call it behavioral. It's just behavior therapy. This combines humanistic, phenomenological, behavioral therapy. Cognitions, emotions, behaviors interact, just as in multimodal therapy. So Ellis believes that people contribute to their own psychological symptoms by the way they interpret events. So two individuals could experience the exact same event. Two people could be riding along in the back seat of a cab, and the cab is in an accident and wrecks, and they both step out of the demolished car, and one person looks to the other and says, "Oh, what a horrible day. I can't believe we were in this accident. My day is ruined." And the other person responds by saying, "It's a miracle. We walked away from this accident unscathed, unharmed." And one day is ruined, and the other perception is that it was a fantastic day. It's almost like that glass half full, half empty thing. It's our perception of events changes not only the way we think about them, but then the way we feel. So that's in italics, even though it's under a little bit of history. You should memorize that. Self-statements promote behavior. So self-statements, self-talk, what we say inside our heads, is that negative? Is it positive? The Greek philosopher Epictetus had something similar. He said that people are disturbed not by things, but by the way, by the view which they take of them. So that's very similar to what Ellis is saying. In fact, that's where he got that from. Adler also influenced his theory. He gives Adler quite a bit of credit. We talked about how different theories gleaned some of Adler's ideas, and Adler used some cognitive therapy techniques. Only Adler was the one who developed them first. So you don't need to know this, but each theory, remember, puts these in a different order: beliefs, emotions, actions. His clients are educated and practice skills to dispute irrational beliefs. I think that combination of CBT and REBT are the most popular theories that are used in therapy today, primarily because insurance companies like them. It's brief therapy. They can track the positive movements or progress of the clients. Clients can easily understand these theories. I would say that many times, though, the client actually, even though they understand this, even though they can practice it, even though they would say on a survey at the end of therapy, "Yes, this all makes sense. Going to use, positive self-talk to dispute my irrational beliefs. I'm going to catch myself every time I'm thinking something negative and substitute something positive." I've often found that they either return to therapy or depression, anxiety, whatever issue they're working on returns, because it's not changing a core belief many times. So I do use CBT and primarily REBT. However, I usually incorporate it with something that addresses some deeper things like personal belief systems and meaning. But that's just my personal reaction to these theories. I like using REBT because it has a very simple outline of this technique, A, B, C, D, E, F. A lot of times people will just use the ABC part, but it's important to do both. I divided them because ABC deals with the negative belief or the irrational belief. DEF disputes the belief and changes the feeling into something positive. So let's walk through each part, each letter of this technique. So A, there's an activating event. In the example I used of a cab crashing or being in an accident, that would be the activating event. The belief about that event is our interpretation of it. Is it positive? Is it negative? He also has other terms like, am I catastrophizing the situation? Am I minimizing it? Am I maximizing it? What types of thought processes are coming into play when I think about whatever event or situation it is? So what's my belief about the situation? If it's positive, like, wow, I leaving this accident unscathed, unharmed, it's a wonderful day. Or, that's fine. If it's negative, though, oh, horrible things always happen to me. I can't believe this crash happened, this accident. My day is totally ruined. So that is an irrational belief. The consequence would be a negative emotional reaction. They're feeling down, depressed for the rest of the day. And that would lead to probably some negative or depressive behavior. So that's the first part. The second part, if they were in therapy, we would begin to dispute the irrational belief, D. So I might say, well, I heard you say things like, bad things always happen to you. And, so I was wondering, is that true? Do they always happen to you? Or is that an exaggeration? So can you tell me some positive things that also happened to you? Was this specific accident all negative? Or were there some positive things that you could connect? Well, you weren't harmed. You were able to walk away and continue your day. What could you say to yourself to dispute all those negative thoughts in your mind? And I would allow the client to come up with ways to dispute the negative thoughts. That's in their control. They need to verbalize that so that they own those new observations or perceptions of the triggering event, the activating event. So they begin to say these positive things to themselves. The effect is a more positive interpretation of the event. Perhaps the rest of their day is not ruined. Perhaps actually the effect may result in F, some positive feelings, which would then lead to more positive actions. If somebody's feeling positive, it would lead to more positive actions. Karen Horney thought that words like should, ought, and other words, if only, are connected to this irrational thought process. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I ought to have whatever. And it's really self-criticism that uses these words. It's not about something that happens to a person. It may be self-examination about something an individual said, or something they did, or something that happened at work or at school or with a relationship. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this. So it's almost like a regret. Shoulds and oughts and if onlys. But we follow the same A, B, C, D, E, F construct in disputing the irrational belief and the negative self-talk, and replacing it with a more positive belief about the event and more positive self-talk. So I think this is a very logical, straightforward way to deal with irrational beliefs. One of the only differences is that I incorporate this into a much broader therapeutic milieu, whereas this is one of the primary techniques used in REBT. Ellis is quite confrontational with his clients. You can be confrontational, but you can do it politely by pointing out incongruities. All right. So let's look at cognitive therapy. This is by Ellis and Beck, 1921. I'm thinking to the present. I have not heard about anything happening to him, but cognitive therapy or cognitive behavior therapy is CBT. So we can say it used to just be CT, okay? We could also write or cognitive behavior therapy. That would be CBT, and the cognitive therapy is just called CT. You will see it referred to both ways. CT, usually CBT. Beck, in fact, I think it's sometimes he writes with his wife, sometimes he writes with his daughter, I think. But his new book is Beck and Beck. Either Ellis or Beck or both would be great books to read for candidacy, or if you're simply interested in these theories, I think they are good reads. I think they're easy to read and easy to understand, but if you go to any interview in clinical mental health counseling or even school counseling, you should be have a good understanding in some type of cognitive therapeutic theory. And I think just one of their books would do that for you. So if we think about this, and I don't have a lot of history for Ellis and Beck. In fact, I should probably add some personal history here. And once again, if you had a little problem on one of your exams, I'll give you half a point. If you add to these notes that I can share with your fellow students, a little personal history about Ellis and Beck, family of origin, where he studied, what his degrees were, where he practiced, what his family is now, any struggles that he dealt with. So about a paragraph, you know what I do in my notes. But I wanted to keep this fairly simple as well. It's a clean theory. It's very much like REBT using different terminology. So he would call, instead of calling irrational beliefs, he would call them cognitive distortions, but it's the same thing. So you should memorize these little terminologies. And I might even do a comparison between REBT and CBT on the exam. So cognitive distortions are similar to irrational beliefs. Arbitrary inferences, making conclusions without evidence, or catastrophizing. And that's also what, so Ellis also uses the term to catastrophize. Selective abstraction, making conclusions based on only isolated details of an event. Overgeneralization, extreme beliefs based on a single incident applied inappropriately to dissimilar events or situations. I'm thinking about how to shorten these, but I think you just have to memorize what's in the notes here. Magnification and minimization, perceiving a situation in greater or lesser light than it deserves. Personalization, relating external events to oneself without basis. I always get the idea that there's a little narcissistic aspect to personalization. There isn't really, but it's thinking that, if somebody canceled a date, oh, there must be something wrong with me, Labeling and mislabeling, portraying one's identity on imperfections or mistakes rather than on the whole person. So focusing on parts or aspects rather than looking at the whole person. Polarized thinking, thinking in all or nothing terms, either or extremes. And none of these are positive. All of these are problems that can be disputed. All of these, you could say, are cognitive distortions or methods of cognitive distorting. So what are some basic differences between REBT and CT or CBT? Well, REBT can be directive, and CT or CBT, Beck would say that he uses a Socratic dialogue and open-ended questions rather than being so directive. So he would ask questions. REBT uses the term irrational beliefs. CT uses cognitive distortions. CT is used for depression and, I would say, anxiety. Because the BDI is the Beck's depression inventory, but he also has a Beck anxiety inventory. And I often use them together because there's usually a component of both depression and anxiety in clients. And that is our lecture for today. If you have any questions or problems, please email me and I will answer them. And we will also watch Ellis. He is the third therapist working with Gloria. So you'll get to see Ellis using REBT with Gloria. All right, have a great day.